guys, and welcome back. Today I wanted to do a quick video. I have pulled this one up from, and forgive me, I don't have the clip, but it came from something from Paul VanderKlay's Bridges of Meaning Discord server. He does a Q&A on there on Fridays, and he had said something about another discussion that Jordan Peterson had with someone, and they were talking about the master and his emissary, right brain versus left brain, and I kind of wanted to, I don't know if you would call this an extension, or if you guys think I'm picking on Paul, which I'm not trying to, but he says something along the lines of there's a whole lot of left brain thinking and not a lot of right brain. And that Ian McGilchrist, that's his name, that he had, that there are people that have problems with the left brain, and Paul's one of them. Because as we know, right brain people tend to be more open, creative, whereas left brain people seem to be more logical, rational, facts over feelings type thing. So I thought that I would do this in kind of response to what he was saying. So, left brain versus right brain in Western culture, language and thinking styles. Again, Paul makes a point that the left brain tends to thingify in order to make sense of a concept or grasp it, if you will, which, again, that's language of things. We grasp things. We are thing-seeking individuals, and we use our hands to grasp. Well, concepts and ideas are not things. Make sense of concept or grasp it, in which itself is a verb or an action. We all know that it's physically impossible to grasp an abstract idea or concept, but all the same we use the language because it's what we have. So here's my rebuttal or extension to what he was saying based on just how you want to see it. It's either going to be a rebuttal to you or an extension. It's not an either or. We do tend to thingify abstract ideas and concepts, but we also associate agency with inanimate objects that have no agency. And this is where the right brain part starts to kick in. So the two are working in tandem at this. And we do this when, say, we yell at our vehicle for breaking down, or our cell phone for acting up. We say things like, stupid car, when in reality, to be stupid is to lack intelligence or common sense. A car is an inanimate object, so by definition, cannot be stupid. If anything, the case is that we thingify abstract ideas and concepts the same way we do inanimate objects. This is true. We might say, well, that's a stupid idea. Well, yes, it can be, or it might not be. It's the first step in giving the object agency in the arena. And I tend to say this behavior is more right brain centered. We wish to assign agency to that which has none. This is an emotional and not logical response to the way the world works. If anything, I say current Western culture is driven by very right brain centric ideology. And I mean that in the truest sense, because this is the way we tend to treat things in the world. And then we do it with inanimate objects, we do it with abstract concepts and ideas, we thingify them, give them agency, and then that allows us to harness our feelings about it towards the thing itself, when the thing itself is not really what should be drawing those emotions out of us. In conclusion, part of this is just as Paul describes. It's bound up in the language that we have at our disposal. So again, that grasping, like you can't grasp something that isn't a thing. Another part of it is our need to assign agency where it is not due. The car doesn't break down because it's a stupid car. It does so for mechanical or software issues. It does so in part because of neglect on the part of the owner or design flaws. Your cell phone doesn't act up because it has agency to do so. It does because of engineering flaws or most likely abuse on the user end. This mode of behavior allows us to assign agency and therefore blame the object rather than deal with the multitude of things that could have caused the problem. We do this because it's easier to simplify and reduce it down to car is stupid. If we were to see it in a left brain centric way, what we would notice is that it's a much more complicated issue, and a non-emotional response is required to solve the problem. Instead, what tends to happen is car is stupid. Then we extrapolate out what to do about stupid car. So, again, we do this because it's much easier to blame the thing, and in order to blame the thing, then we have to assume that the thing has agency. Well, the thing has no agency, so therefore we must assign agency to it. And all this in culmination together is a very right brain centric thing because it's emotionally tied. It's not logical. It's not rational. Ask a person on a day when their vehicle is running right, and no, they're not going to say something like, "Oh, this car is so stupid," or they're going to treat the inanimate object as it were, and not assign agency to it and say, "Oh, well, this thing is just acting up." Well, is it? It can't act. It can't act up. It can't do any of these things that we assign to it. But half of it's language. The other half of it is we want something to blame, and it's much easier to reduce all that down and say, car is stupid, or cell phone is stupid, or this is stupid, or that is stupid. And it's like, in order to fit what we need it to be, that's what we must do. And a left brain type person would never want to assume that inanimate objects or abstract ideas have any agency whatsoever, because that's more of a facts and logic based system of being than to be overly emotional, which is more right brain centric. This is how I heard it a lot of years ago. Women's brains are like spaghetti. Everything touches. The noodles, the sauce, the meatballs, everything touches one another. They're all interconnected. So one problem extrapolates out into more, into more, into more. Men's, and again, you're going to have to implement the 80-20 rule here. 80% of the time this is probably right, 20% of the time it's wrong. But men's brains are more like waffles. There's little compartments. You can put syrup in each individual little compartment. You don't have to spread the syrup all over the waffle. It's compartmentalized. So this thing here doesn't affect this thing here. Like they're not connected. And so that mode of thinking, the right brain is typically very emotional in response, whereas the left brain isn't. The left brain goes, "Oh, well, this one thing happened with car. Okay, that I can fix that. The right brain goes, well, if this thing happened with the car, then what's next? And then what's next? And soon it's the whole car is falling apart because two parts need to be replaced. Well, that's not the whole car, and car is not stupid. It's just car needs fixed. So the two have to kind of work together and play off of each other. But at least in Western culture, what I see is more right brain centric than more left brain centric. But you guys can tell me what you think down in the comments. That's going to be all for this time. Thanks for coming along, guys.